Thank you for joining tonight. Really excited to dive into this. I know we already had a number of conversations tonight about various different topics, from crypto to life to what's going on in the country, but I just really appreciate you taking the time to join me and tell your story and answer a lot of these questions that maybe things that you have not answered before, talked about publicly. So super excited about diving into that. But just to kind of start this off so people have a really good understanding of who you are and kind of get a feel for your background, I'm just going to quickly go through your bio, which is hard to go through quick because there's a lot here, but we'll make it as quickly as possible. Colonel Bezjian is an Air Intelligence Agency individual mobilization augmentee assigned to Headquarters Defense Intelligence Agency Defense Attaché Service as a Reserve Air Attaché, Middle East and Africa Regional Center, MARC. As a defense attaché assigned to the Directorate of Operations, he advises and assists U.S. ambassadors, country teams on military issues, and represents U.S. Secretary of Defense and Secretary of the Air Force on host countries while deployed. Colonel Bezjian started his career as an enlisted member of the California Air National Guard and specialized in wideband communications specialist. In 1990, then Technical Sergeant Bezjian received his federal and state commission as an officer in the U.S. Air Force from the Academy of Military Science, McGee-Tyson Air Force Base, Tennessee. He progressed through various assignments as a communications officer, presently cyber defense, and a foreign area officer. After serving a tour of duty in Yemen as a foreign area officer, Colonel Bezjian transferred to the Air Force Reserve and was selected to be a Reserve Air Attaché assigned to the Defense Intelligence Agency Sub-Saharan Africa Division. As an attaché, he has served 4 additional tours of duty in Ethiopia and Chad, Chad again in 2014, Niger, Jordan, plus various short tours at U.S. embassies in sub-Saharan Africa to include Uganda, Mali, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Niger. As a civilian, Colonel Bezjian has a master's in international business administration and a doctorate in business administration degrees. He is an associate professor of business and teaches international business strategy, global marketing, international management, and leadership for graduate programs. He speaks Arabic, Armenian, and some French.
Let me preface this: I'm retired.
and once again, and also retired from the Air Force and from the military. So this is the bio of your experience in the military and obviously also in business as well. But I'd kind of like to let you kind of kick things off a little bit and maybe talk to your story from the beginning. You did not start in the U.S. and you made your way to the U.S. and you've built a story in the U.S. and built a beautiful family here. So I'd like to kind of let us start by telling the story from the beginning. Where did you come from, and also how did you make your way into the United States?
All right. I was born and raised in Lebanon, and when I finished high school in Lebanon, I applied to come to the United States to go to school. But before that, I was during the 68, 69 time frame, the U.S. 6th Fleet came to Lebanon to Beirut. And my father had friends from the U.S. Embassy who got us invitations to go on the fleet in an aircraft carrier. So I was at that time probably, 12 years old, 13 years old. And we went on the deck of the carrier. And I was so impressed with that. In my mind, I said, I'm going to be in the military sometime, somewhere. Since childhood, I've always wanted to be a general. That was my dream, to become a general. So eventually I made colonel, but not general.
But still very impressive.
Very close.
Still very impressive.
So when I finished high school, I applied to come to the United States as a foreign student. My original intention was to come to learn automotive mechanic job, and then go get expertise in Italy for Ferrari, and then Germany for Porsche, and then go back to Lebanon and start a auto repair shop.
Okay.
Exclusive auto repair shop. That was my goal. But God had different plans for me. After I came to the United States, I went to California and started going to auto school. And then the war started in Lebanon. This is the 75 war, Civil War start. And my plans changed. I could not go back. And anytime I would contact my parents, they'll say, don't come back. There's bad things going on here. If you come, you're going to die. And so I made different plans. So I went to college. After I finished part of my training in the automotive industry, I went to junior college to get a junior college and eventually transfer to a bachelor's degree. So when I did that, I was able to finish my bachelor's degree. And that when I graduated from my bachelor's degree, it was 1979. The economy was very bad. We were going through the Iran hostage situation. And oil embargo and all that stuff was going on. So I've decided, since I'm going to stay here in the United States, I'd like to give back. And what doing that would be, I got my degree, then I'll join the Air Force. And I joined the Air Force, but because I did not have a green card yet, I had to go as an enlisted. So I went to the recruiter. I said, look, I have applied for green cards, and I'm available. Will you take me? They said, yes, we'll take you, as long as you have filed paperwork in the system. I said, that's fine. So I joined the Air Force. So I went to basic training, went to radio comm school in Biloxi, Mississippi, and came back, and I'm in the California Air National Guard. So I stayed in that system in the Air National Guard, and I made from E1 to E6. That's like tech sergeants in the Air Force. And that took me about almost 8 years. And within that time frame, I had married my wife, who was an American citizen. So I had to reapply as a spouse of the citizen. And then finally, I got my citizenship. Once I got my citizenship, I went to my commander. I said, I'd like to go to officer candidate school. He says, yes, I approve it. He signed my paperwork, sent me to the Air Force at McGee Tyson, and I became a lieutenant. So I started as E1, right, then now O1. And so I'm growing as things go on. And so I did a lot of training, and then because of my language, I spoke Arabic, and I had applied for Foreign Area Officer, AFSC, which is the Air Force Specialty Code. And that took me into an area where after 9/11, when 9/11 happened in 2001, I raised my hand. I said, guys, I speak Arabic. Take me. And nothing happened. 2 years later, 2003, I got a call. They said, there's an assignment. We need a foreign area officer in Djibouti. Would you like to go? I said, definitely. So I packed my stuff, went to Djibouti. Once I got there, I'm working at the J5, which is the operations. Okay. And within a few weeks, my boss came to me and says, you speak Arabic. I'd like to forward deploy to Yemen. Would you like to go? I said, yes, I'll go to Yemen. Then I went to Yemen. I stayed in Yemen for about 4 months and did a lot of coordination between the embassy and the Djibouti. We did a lot of training local military. And after I finished, I came back and then came home. So once I came back, that's where I found out about the attaché program. Right. Because I was working with the defense attaché in the Yemen embassy. And the attaché over there told me, you need to become an attaché. You have that skill set. So I said, I don't know anything about the attaché because I was in the national government. Right. He said, when you go back, contact the Defense and Intelligence Agency at this office and tell them that you're available and then go from there. Which I did. When I got home, I called the DIA. I said, look, I'm in the reserves, California National Guard. I speak Arabic and whatever. I am an FAO. And I'm interested in the attaché program. So they said, send us your package right away. This is the forms you need to fill out. And we have a selection next week. So I had to go to my boss, have him release me and everything, and FedEx the package and everything, and send it in. I didn't hear anything for 2-3 weeks. 3 weeks later, they called me. They said, we selected you. But we selected you, but we're going to assign you for Africa because we need Arabic speakers in Africa. I said, no problem, I'll take it. So then I shifted from Air National Guard into Air Force Reserve. So I became Air Force Reserve, assigned to DIA. So now I'm working for DIA. So I was at DIA for total 13 years. And so I progressed from there. And when I moved to the DIA, I was a major in rank. And then all these years, I made Lieutenant Colonel and then full-blood Colonel. And I retired as a full-blood Colonel. During this span, I did five or four long deployments.
Right.
And about 6 short deployments. When I say short deployments, under 30 days. And the long ones are 6 to 8 months. So that's the gist of it. Now, this is on my military side.
Right.
Now, since I'm a reservist on the civilian side, my degree was in international business, bachelor's. My master's was in international business, and my doctorate degree in strategy. So these are 2 parallel careers that I have. And so after 9/11, I would get called for deployments. So I would take leave, deploy, and then come back to civilian life. And so I had these 2 tracks of fields, right, both civilian and military, that I all with it. To me, because I was in marketing and international business, for me, there was a very fine parallel line between marketing and intelligence. And because marketing is basically intelligence. What do you do in marketing? You learn what your competition is doing, and then you come up with something better product, and then you market your product. Same with the military intelligence. The intelligence, basically, you learn what the enemy is doing, what the others are doing, and then you try to become better than they are. So that's, for me, it was natural. My civilian life and my military life was very natural. Very compatible.
There's a bit of a question there too that comes to mind is, in making that transition back from being overseas and being so involved in the intelligence side of things, and then coming back into civilian life, was it they seem to support one another and be beneficial to be, right, doing both at the same time. But was it difficult to come back from being overseas and being in this situation?
It's not that difficult. The thing is that for the civilian side, you're doing marketing, you're doing the research, trying to find out breaks. Whereas on the military side, you're doing the same thing too. But the difference is that, someone said, I don't remember who the person was, but someone said that marketing and intelligence are the same thing. The difference is that in the military intelligence, people die. Marketing people don't die.
Right.
So that's the difference. And so what happens here that the difficulty is switching back and forth.
Yep.
And it is hard on the family, because every time I leave, things change in the house, in the family. And when I get back, I have to retrain myself to switch back to the civilian.
Was there a different, because there has to be, because it's life or death all the time, is there a different level of intensity that you brought back to the workplace after being?
It does, yeah. Okay. Because when you're downrange, you're in really under pressure. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of things, life and death situation where you're going through. And then all of a sudden, you switch to the situation back home, and everything's normal. So your mind is going, go, always watching your sex, always watching your back.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, you come here driving, and then you look around, am I same place or somewhere else? So you have to be able to switch back to the normal.
Right.
And the people around you don't understand it. Especially when you're on high-tempo operation and you come back, it's like you have to have people understand that you are coming from that mindset and you need this time to decompress.
How long did that typically take you? Was there a period of decompression?
It is. Typically, it's about a month for every, a week for every month you've gone.
Okay.
So a week for every month you've gone will take you. So if I was now 6 months, it's going to take you about almost 6 weeks to decompress.
So that was for you. Do you think that was for
Some people
never recover.
Never decompress. And, in my case, I was more as an attaché, I was more involved in the embassy.
Right.
So I was technically more protected. I was in a more secure environment, whereas some other combat people who were on the front lines, they were more involved in day-to-day combat situations. So some of those guys had more difficulty switching back.
What were, I kind of want to go to growing up and your experience in Lebanon, obviously experiencing war at a young age too. Then your family experiencing war throughout the duration of your early years. How do you think that's impacted you as a human being? And also your choices that you've made in life to be so willing to go to these places. And there are so many people that when they hear, oh, I need you to go to Jazeera, I need you to go to Jordan, I need you to go to Yemen, Ethiopia, they'd be like, no, I'm scared. I would never do that. But you, from what you've just shared, you were willing to go upon being called by your country to go serve.
Well, in 1973, we had the initial civil war in Lebanon. And I experienced that at our house, in our city where I was living. And so we went through it, and it was like almost a month of civil war there, but then it stopped. And then in 75, it blew up again. And then it went on for years, the civil war. But during that time frame, I was exposed to all these atrocities of war. So when I came here, in the back of my mind, I still have that. So to me, that's why when I joined the military, I said, okay, I want to pay back. Because I was so fortunate to get my degree here. I said, the only way I can pay back to the United States is joining the military. I can do some service for the country. And so that was my initial steps into the military. Now, in terms of your question about weird places to go to, because of my background, living in the Middle East, which is very continental country. Lebanon was a very international country. I was exposed to different cultures. To me, to go into Yemen or go to Niger or to Chad or to Ethiopia, Uganda, it's not an issue. It's like, for me, it's adventure.
Right.
Because I get my energy. I get energized when I see different cultures. I embrace it. And whereas some other people say, oh, I don't want to go, it's too, for me, it's fun. Learn something. Go and learn something from other cultures. And always try to teach others from your culture. At the same time, you learn from them.
I love it.
So that's how I was going.
What were, during those periods of time abroad as well, what were some of the most challenging aspects? It sounds like you really enjoyed the cultural aspect and meeting the people and being entrenched in their culture and their atmosphere, their environment. But what were some of the most challenging aspects of serving in those regions?
The one thing that just comes to my mind is that when I was in Yemen, we had a cultural issue between American troops and the local military. And I was responsible for these guys. We had American Marines training the local military. And there was misunderstanding of cultural language, basically, and we got in trouble. And in my mind at that time, I was seeing headlines, U.S. Marines killed in Yemen. That's what was going to happen. So I had to go and defuse this. And the whole thing was because of misunderstanding of cultural norms. And the problem was our American troops did not understand the Middle Eastern culture. And they did something that was offensive to the local culture. And it got to the point where they said, we're going to kill you guys. So as the foreign area officer there, I had to go and tamp it down, work with the local commander, say, hey, guys, let's resolve this issue.
Right.
Because I'm originally Lebanese, and when I speak Arabic with them, they can tell my accent is, oh, you Lebanese, you brother, come on over. So that's what I use that. Yeah. I use that to benefit the U.S. military. I walk in and say, hey, yeah, I'm your brother. You're right. And then when they say something, look, Americans don't understand your culture. I understand. Work with me. We'll make it happen.
Love it. So a lot of conflict resolution. That seems
exactly.
like all the time.
It's all misunderstanding of culture.
Right.
And it escalates. It can become really bad if you don't understand the culture. And it was to the point that we're going to have like shootouts. Our dads were going to get killed there. And so my job was to tamp it down, resolve this thing, and then send the people back out and bring new team. Because they said, we see these guys, we're going to kill them. So that's cultural issue. And if you mess it up once, people die.
Right. It just to bring that back home, like in America, we have so many different cultures, all slam packed into our country. And I, just from the little bit of traveling that I've done, what I've realized is that a lot of countries are not near as diverse as America. Yeah. Not at all. They just aren't. So when it comes to all the cultures that are packed into our country, when you go and you experience it in these other countries and you come back home, have you had experiences in America where you've had to diffuse cultural situations as well? Or has it not really been as much of an issue over the years?
It's not been an issue. For me, I understand it. Right. And sometimes I get frustrated that Americans don't understand. Yeah. Because they haven't been, the average American has not even exposed to other cultures. Right. How many people that have traveled worldwide? I've been all over the world, in Africa and Europe and everything. And for me, it's like exciting. But when you come to the United States and people have never seen or stepped outside their own state, let alone overseas. And so that becomes difficult for me to say, what is up, guys? There's a whole world outside.
Yeah. And you have the ability to travel to it.
Exactly.
Go travel. What are some of your key lessons you learned from your time as an FAO officer abroad? And just, really the key things that you took home with you or brought back into your business life as well that helped you to continue to excel there?
Both on the military and business side, you have to be open-minded. You have to accept others. And your way is not the only way. There's always other options.
Right.
There's other ways of solution for problems. And so if you keep an open mind, you can find out that, hey, other people might do something, same problem, solve it differently. Right. So if you open your mind and be accepting, you should be able to learn from others and then be added benefit to them.
Right.
A typical example is that usually, what is the typical thing when Americans travel overseas? They call them ugly Americans. Why? Because we go in cocky, it's our way, my way, and put that down and assume that that's out there and learn from others. And don't try to become, we're the only one in this world. And that's what I learned from this whole experience. And when I mentor our new FAOs and new attachés, when I go to DI, I usually go and speak to the future attachés. Right. I teach them do's and don'ts of traveling overseas. And there are norms you need to understand the cultures when you go there. And but basic culture, if you understand the basic culture, you will prevent probably 50% of the problems. And I always advise them, learn the culture before you go any country. Study about the culture. And that will open up doors.
Absolutely. You, just kind of going back to the war time, the war experience as a child and the formation there. I know we're kind of jumping around here a little bit. Was there ever a time in those experiences with Ukraine now and everything going on with Russia and Ukraine and the potential invasion of Taiwan, and we could go on, the list goes on with the different conflicts that are going on around the world all the time. But with the experience that you have and you've had as a child growing up, what would you really say, was there ever a time that you were incredibly afraid, or maybe you felt like you were going to get out of a situation? And what has that kind of done for you in shaping your worldview as well?
One time I was in Chad.
Okay.
And I was deployed to Ethiopia, and they forward deployed me to Chad. Okay. And then from in N'Djamena, which is the capital, I went to Attaché, which is a border town on the border of Sudan. This was during the Sudan-Darfur war going on. I was assigned there by myself. And part of my job was to be an observer. And I was living in the World Food Program housing. And I had a Land Cruiser with my laptop and my radio. And what I would do, I would take my Land Cruiser, drive in the desert, go up on a hill somewhere, and watch, observe what's going on in the desert, because that's when the rebels would be coming in. And I was all by myself. And when you are all by yourself in a high-risk area, you search a lot. You search God. You search faith. That's when you find out that, hey, I'm here by myself. God help me. And that's when you find out that if you don't have spiritual faith, you're going to have difficulty. And that's in that time I contacted my boss and I said, look, you cannot have one person here by himself working, because if something happens to him, nobody's going to know. I'm in the middle of the desert, nobody knows. And I said, you need to have two people, team people. So because he didn't have someone, my boss came and spent a few weeks with me till he found replacement for me. So I was there for about 3 months. And then he found 2 replacements for me. He brought the replacements, I went home. So that's the time when you are really under pressure by yourself. That's when you really search and you find that, okay, this is when I need to be in agreement with God.
Right. Was there, during that experience, was there a contact situation of sorts that led you to desire for more people to be there?
Well, yeah, my job was to be observer.
Right.
And there was like coup going on in the neighborhood.
Right.
And there was fighting going on between the Sudanese government and the rebels. Right. And the rebels were coming into the Chad, and then the Chadian rebels were going to Sudan. So it was a mess. Right. And I was making contact with the Sudanese rebels and collecting and getting information from them.
Understood.
And so it was tense. It was very tense.
With a family back home, and as you were continuing to grow your family, go back abroad, come back to work, go back abroad, come back to work, how was that in raising a family with all this travel?
It's hard. It's hard on them more than it's on me. For me, it's exciting. And my kids called me Indiana Jones, and that became my nickname over there. Right. So my co-son was Indiana Jones, because I was typically in the university. I leave the university, go on an adventure, and then come back to university, and then go back on an adventure. So my co-son became Indiana Jones. And so I was the true Indiana Jones, basically, and going on missions all over in sub-Saharan Africa.
For individuals that are maybe immigrating into the country and have a similar background to you, and also want to take the same path, they want to get involved, they want to get into the military. Maybe they're having issues getting the green card, or maybe they're having issues getting their citizenship in order to be able to progress. What would be some of your advice to those individuals that are also in the same shoes that you were in that many years ago?
Follow your dreams. Be your passion. You gotta be passionate about what you were doing. For me, the military was my passion. I really liked it. And then on the civilian side, international business was my passion too. Because for me, international business, I love it. And they were very parallel. They were not two different things, but they were very parallel in the same environment. Right. So one was, I was in uniform, that was on the suit. And then becoming an attaché, it was basically doing the same thing too.
Right.
I was diplomat, basically. An attaché is called a military diplomat. You're taking the role of diplomat in a military suit.
So on a daily basis in that military diplomat position, serving in the embassy, what did kind of a day-to-day look like for you in the embassies? And I'm sure it was different for each deployment, but...
Basically, your job in the embassy is to represent the DOD and your service, in my case, Air Force.
Right.
The Secretary of the Air Force in the host country. And anything that's going on military in that country is to be approved by my office. As the defense attaché, you're responsible for every military operation going on in the country. Usually, let's say, a lot of the countries would ask American troops to come train them. So I would have to arrange all the training teams to come in and work with the local military. Let's say local government wants to buy American equipment, military equipment, whatever. It has to be approved through my office and then go through the whatever system, and it's be approved for purchase. Okay. So my job is to coordinate all that, and plus you have visitors, you have VIPs, generals or whatever from COCOM commanders want to come in to visit the country. I have to arrange all that, and so that's your typical day-to-day operation. And but basically, you are the eyes and ears of the Department of Defense in that country. And as a defense attaché, you are the coordinator. At the same time, you are collecting on the local military too. Right. They know that. I've been trained as an intelligence officer. They know that as a humanitarian. Right. And let's say every embassy in the United States, every foreign embassy has a defense attaché. Their job is to work with our military. Right. And same thing here. My job here is to work with their military, coordinate all that stuff. So you have a very busy schedule.
It sounds like it. And in between, I'm sure, so in gathering intelligence too, that intelligence is probably being gathered on certain individuals that the U.S. government targets on as well.
Anything. Yeah. Who's doing what? Right. What other embassies are doing, what other military doing in the country. You need to understand, because it's not just us. There's other military people in the country. You got the Chinese, you got the Israelis, you got the French, you got everybody else is there. Right. And who's buying, selling equipment? So you need to understand and get that information.
I recently had a friend on that did a tour in Benin, Africa, and we talked a lot about what's going on in West Africa, in particular Africa in general, but more specifically West Africa. I'm assuming you've been following those events pretty heavily and pretty strictly. But what about what's going on there? Can you kind of give me your thoughts on the current situation in West Africa and Africa in general, and what do you think the future looks like for West Africa?
Well, in the Sub-Sahara area, especially now with Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. I don't know if you follow Niger. We had a base, and Air Base 201 in Agadez. Actually, I was the defense attaché at that time, which I landed the first C-17, bringing equipment to build the runway there. And so I had to negotiate with the local FAA, local governor, and the mayor of the town and everything. So that's the part of the defense attaché. I had to do all that stuff. But the region is very ripe in terms of resources. But now, currently, there's so much tension with the Al-Qaeda type operations going on there. And so Burkina Faso had a coup. And just today, they had a attempted coup against the leader.
Recent coup.
Yeah. So it's funny, in Africa, the joke is that all the coups in Africa are done by colonels. From Gaddafi to everyone else is a colonel. So they all, the area is really ripe for terrorists to take over the continent. So it's a very touchy situation because Burkina Faso kicked the French out. Niger kicked the French out. Now kicking us out. And Mali kicked the French out. And both Niger and Mali have uranium. So the resources that there's gold, uranium, there's a lot of resources. And the key is for the locals to be able to utilize their own resources and be able to build their own country. But a lot of these countries, corruption is typical.
Right.
And if you need a leadership that will be able to stop the corruption and take care of the people. Right. And that will be a really positive in West Africa and Sub-Saharan.
But also, like, America comes in, supports certain leaders. China comes in, supports other leaders. Russia.
When we go there, we want to make sure that we have our own people there. Right. That benefits our resources. not necessarily what's beneficial for them.
Right.
So that's a balance that you have to play. And having seen that, having seen those coups, multiple coups going around, and you feel for it. They want to do what's best for them. And same thing here in the United States. We want to do what's best for the United States. But then you got all these migrants coming in. Unlimited amount of migrants. How about the locals? Take care of your own people first before you bring anybody. So those are the types of things. In Africa, when the French go there, the US goes there, Russians go there, everybody wants their own benefit.
Right.
And the locals are screwed.
Right. And speaking to like immigration too, you obviously came into the country the proper way and worked towards your citizenship the proper way.
Yeah.
With the current immigration situation in America, how do you view it? What are your thoughts on?
It's been depressing.
Okay.
It took me 10 years to become a U.S. citizen. From the first day I applied till I got my citizenship, almost 10 years. And I had to do it. I filed 3 times. I filed as a political asylum, I filed as a refugee, and then finally I filed as a spouse of a U.S. citizen. Now, I'm married to my wife 43 years ago. And that span, you're not going to see many people married that long in the United States. But I've been married to my wife 43 years. And I'm proud of it.
Which is amazing. And
for me, when I see the border open like this, people walking in, we don't know who's walking. We have no control.
Well, I think this is the part that you can talk to more so than the vast majority of the population that knows nothing about terrorism, right? Nobody knows really much of anything, which I think ignorance is bliss to a certain degree. But that's the part that people don't really talk much about. Or they think they know a little bit about it, but they don't really know that much. So when it comes to people coming across the border, the southern border, any border, illegally, what can you maybe share insight-wise that would help people to better wrap their mind around why having a secure border is a good idea?
Okay. I put it this way. Let me give you a simple example. You have a beautiful house. One day storm comes, your roof starts leaking. Water is pouring in. What do? You go change the carpet, change the furniture, paint the walls. You stop the leak first, then take care of the inside next. Same thing here. The border is open. We are pouring people in. The system in the United States cannot handle schools, hospitals, all the infrastructure cannot handle it the way they were here. If you listen to the news, they say, 10 million. No way 10 million. It's over 35 million. It is over 35 million. And no one's talking about it. And now, all of a sudden, we talk about, we're going to have the illegal aliens coming in, going to vote. Wait a minute, they're not even a citizen. They cannot vote. But they're getting our privilege to vote. So it is an intentional destruction of the United States. I'm sorry to say this, but that's how I feel. Yeah. This is intentional destruction of the United States.
So with that being said, by whom?
The globalists.
Okay.
By the globalists who don't care to have an independent United States. Okay. By the elites that want open borders. People can move in, move out. And you cannot have that. Any country will not survive, especially in the United States, with the resources we have. We cannot survive if we have open door policy.
That's a difficult one. That's a difficult pill to swallow. It's a hard one to think about. And I think being at the point I'm at in life, and with the fact that our country has been the dominant force in the world for my entire existence, we start to think about the border and our current elections and the corrupt elections and campaigns and all these things that are going on. Us pulling out of countries, in a terrible manner, and people dying and all the above. I'd sort of think about the future of the country, and I also I'd like to think that the future is bright, but oftentimes I find myself thinking the future is not super bright.
I want to be positive,
right? But I also want to be real.
I see the writing on the wall, because I lived in a country in Lebanon with corruption, everything, and the whole government fell apart, civil war and everything. And I saw all the traits of what happened there.
Right.
And I'm afraid the same thing's going to happen. That's what worries me.
And this is my favorite part about doing this podcast is that we get to get unique perspectives of individuals that have actually experienced things, and the vast majority of us have not. So in telling your story and talking to it, you're actually able to provide valuable insight to other people that have never experienced the things you've ever experienced. And the vast majority will never experience any of the things you've experienced in your lifetime. So in regards to like speaking to our current politicians, our current leaders, even the youth too, that really want to make sure that we preserve the best parts of this country. What is your advice? What is your as if you were like a mentor to our country, and which you are, and you've experienced just about everything, and you have the perspective needed for us to move in the right direction. What would your advice be to the leaders and also the youth of this country?
I don't mean to be political, but we have to do what's best for the United States. What's best for us. First, we have to take care of our own.
Yep.
Once we take care of our own, then we can take care of the outside.
Right.
And now it's total opposite. We're taking care of outside and not taking care of what's inside the country. Billions of dollars going to Ukraine. I don't want to get into the politics of Russia or whatever, whether it's right or wrong, but money is being poured into Ukraine. Ukraine is a corrupt country. Was a corrupt country, it still is a corrupt country. And we're pouring that money in there. Why aren't we taking care of the people here? Look at China. China and Taiwan. That's going to be another hotspot. Korea, North Korea and South Korea. Same country, same religion, region or culture.
Right.
Border, DMZ. The North is all desolate. Right. Nothing. The South is growing like great. Why? Because of the economy, because of the politics, because of the infrastructure. Yeah. Same language, same culture, but different system. And so the same thing with my frustration with this whole thing that's going on here is that I've seen Lebanon go into oblivion because it's a small country, so it goes really fast. The United States is big. It's going to take longer time for us to go. Right. But I see the same problems. I see the same symbols or things that's going on. I can see it. There's writing on the wall. We are going in the wrong direction.
Right.
And we have to take care of our own people first.
So how do we not reverse that, but how do we start to slow that negative growth?
We have to have faith that American people will be able to handle it. And some will, some will not. And we have to educate people. Mm-hmm. We have to educate them in terms of, look, we are going in the wrong direction. Stop on the brake and let's reverse. Let's go back that way. And during the elections, which is coming up now, it's going to be so hard because you got heads of speaking from all different angles. Right. I don't care whether it's Trump or Biden or what. The key is we need to do what's best for the United States. Right. And the important thing is that I'm not talking about me. I'm old. I'm worried about my kids, my grandkids. Those are the things that I have to worry about. And for me, I live my life. But if I can share something that's to provide to the next generation, hey, be careful about this trap. Don't fall in this trap or that trap. And because I've lived through it, then that maybe I've done my share to help the country.
Absolutely. There's a lot of information flowing around on social media. We have access to so much information on a daily basis, and I almost feel like we're bombarded with too much intel every single day. We talked about Twitter earlier and how we get a lot of our news from X.
So much noise, you don't know what is right, what is wrong.
Yep. So for those who are trying to find their way and trying to find the right news, they're trying to find the right news source, they're trying to find the right information. What do you do to find the right information?
Well, with my background, with my training and everything, when I look at the whole sphere of all the communication information coming in, I use my gut feeling. I say, okay, this sounds good. This sounds fishy. Right. So that's how I'm able to filter things out. And because there's so much information out there. you cannot even absorb all of it. So I use my gut feeling, saying, okay, this doesn't make sense. If it's too good to be true, it doesn't make sense. Yeah. But again, with this, with what the whole politics going on, there were so many, what do you call it? Theories.
Conspiracy
theories. Yeah. But a lot of those conspiracy theories came true. Yeah. So when you see a conspiracy theory, you say, okay, let's see, is this logical or not? Right. But then you find out a few months later, it came true.
Right.
So those are the types of things that you have to be able to filter. And my fear is that the younger generation don't have that training or experience to filter things out.
Right.
Whatever they see on TikTok, they believe it.
Mm-hmm. Especially with AI getting really good. Yeah. Really good.
With AI now, I can have the president say anything you want.
Yeah. And it'd be very believable.
And then they'll believe it. Yeah.
Very, very believable. We talked a little bit earlier about classified, unclassified, or declassified information. Situations you maybe been in before that were classified, maybe still are classified, that you can't talk to. I know there's plenty of that. Are there any situations, though, that were once classified or now declassified that you maybe can talk to a little bit that kind of come to mind as a situation or an experience that you think would be really, really valuable for people to know about?
Well, when I was in Yemen, part of our job was to go after the coal bombers. So at that time, everything was classified. But all of a sudden, we hear in the news that there was an armed drone killed some terrorists in the desert. That became unclassified, basically. But we were working on that, and then now all of a sudden it's in the news.
And now it's declassified. Yeah. Just like that. With with surveillance, and obviously it's a lot of what you did with surveillance. Drone technology is now advanced to a point where anybody on the streets can go pick up a drone.
Yeah, I mean those little drones.
Did you all use that kind of technology at the time? Yeah. What was with the shift in drone technology now? What are kind of your opinions on the usage of the technology for surveillance now versus what it was when you were?
Well, technology is going so fast now. Yeah. Look at what's going on in Ukraine. You can buy $100 drone.
Yeah.
They put a bomb on it. They fly it and explode.
Right.
And so it's going really fast in technology. And the key is in the future, who will be able to utilize those technologies to their benefit. Right. Now, there's different thoughts of markets saying that drones will eventually fade out. New technology is going to come. But like in this case in Ukraine, Russia's come up really strong with the electronic warfare, counter-drone. And so there's going to be some new technology coming. There's going to be new... every time you invent a weapon, someone's going to come up with a defensive shield for it. And so it's progression.
Are there any of those weapons that, maybe a lot of them do, but are there any of those weapons that scare you? That are being created or being developed or already developed that make you not maybe scared, but a little nervous about the future of warfare?
Well, AI.
Okay.
AI and robotics. It's becoming, if you see some of the video clips of China, they got all these dogs, robotic dogs, with weapons on them, and they send them ahead of the troops. It's got all the radars and everything. Goes into the hot inland. If it dies, if it blows, so what? Bring another one. And so it's going to become to the point where the ethical question we're going to have now, if we're in a war, I'm shooting against another person.
Yep.
So man shooting another man. In the future, it's going to be a robot shooting a robot. So it's going to be just click, 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 click. And then the question is going to be, Is it a war or what?
Right.
Well, nobody's dying. The robot's dying. So we have to answer all those questions in the future. They're very, very, we're getting into an area that we haven't even touched.
As it relates to all of your accomplishments and all of your assignments and all the things you've done, military, business, family, etc., of all of the things you've done and accomplished, what do you consider your greatest accomplishment in life up to this point?
With everything I've done, my family. I have a great family. I have a great wife, son and a daughter, and I'm very proud of them. They're both accomplished. My wife has a doctorate degree. I have a doctorate degree. My son has a doctorate degree, PhD. My daughter is a medical doctor. And I feel like I've done my share. And my whole thing was, my wife and I had agreed from day one when we had our kids, is that our job is to catapult them.
Right.
And give them everything we need to get them to that level. And for me, I feel like I accomplished my satisfaction in my life with my family. And that's for my personal family side of it. Career-wise, I did make 06 colonel, full-board colonel. I started from E1, E2
right.
to 06. And we called it in the Air Force enlisting, because you were enlisted and then became an officer. And career-wise, in terms of civilian, I was able to get my bachelor's degree, master's degree, doctorate degree. And I worked for 15 years in academics, and before that, 20 years in electronics, in technical side. So I had a complete life career, both civilian and military.
I love it. I love it. And with all the successes too, I mean, what is just to kind of follow up on that? There's obviously a lot there to unravel, but when you think about success for somebody, what do you really define as success for somebody? That could be maybe different for everybody,
right? But
for you, what do you really consider to be your definition of success?
You have to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be happy to be successful. You could chase money, you could chase career and everything. If you're not happy inside, it's not going to do you anything. You have to be comfortable and happy in your family. My wife and I have a great relationship, and I wish everybody can do that. And I've had situations where I said, okay, I'm not going to do this because it's going to jeopardize my family. So you have to know where to draw the line and be able to say, okay, for my family, I'm sacrificing this. I'm not going to. I'll give you an example. I was really excited with my career in the military and everything, with even on the civilian side. I was traveling all over the world as a engineer, as a sales engineer, working for a company doing micro-electronic assembly equipment. And one day, my son came to me. He was like, I think 10 or 12 years old. He said, Dad, you've gone too much, and I don't know enough. That hurt me. Hurt me, not that he hurt me, but hurt me that I wasn't paying attention to that. So that's when I decided, okay, time for me to change careers. So I had already 20 years in the electronics field, and I was traveling all over the world. So I said to my wife, okay, I'm going to change careers. And I went from sales engineer into academics. And luckily, I was at an event with my wife. She was a dean on the school of business in the university in California. So we were at an event. Her boss, the provost, approached me and says, hey, I have a position here in International Center. Would you be interested? International Center, which is recruiting international students? I said, perfect. So I applied. I got the job. My wife didn't even know that I got the job.
I love it.
So when I got the job, for me, I switched from electronics into academics. So I was now working with my wife in the same university, we're commuting together, spending time together. We spend an hour and a half every day going back and forth because we live in Huntington Beach. Driving to Azusa takes me about an hour and a half. So we're spending time together. And my relationship gets stronger because we were together. We'll have lunch together at the cafeteria. And for 15 years, I did that with my wife at the university. And we loved it. And it was the best decision I made because I said, okay, enough is enough. My family comes first. So that's the one thing you got to take care of, that your family comes first. Without your family, none of this is worth it, honestly.
So true. So true. We've covered a lot in this interview, in this conversation tonight, and hopefully we'll continue the conversation offline and continue to discuss plenty of other things. I know we've tonight, even before this, we talked cryptocurrency and quantum financial system and all the other things that are going on that front too, which is maybe just a completely different topic altogether. But is there anything else that you'd like to maybe add or discuss while we're here that maybe we just haven't hit on enough during this conversation that might be some great value and people might want to use?
Currently I'm doing just like part-time teaching at the Citadel.
Okay.
They call me whenever they need me. And at the same time, I do consulting work. We're on parts involved in a new startup.
Can you talk to me to that?
I can talk to you. Just top level.
Yep.
The data security is very important. Internet, when it was invented by Al Gore, I think it's Lord Barber invented. But internet that was not designed for security.
Yep.
Internet was basically a communication system. So it evolved into becoming tools and all kinds of banking and whatever. But the security on it is very vulnerable. And because everything that you know, the internet currently is net-centric. When it's net-centric, it's very vulnerable. The group that I'm working with, and we are working on data security, not net security. So we are data-centric. And what we're trying to do is take your geo data information and protect it. And that's the company I'm working with to launch soon. So that's the area that I'm very interested in.
How are you doing that?
Very difficult. I can't get into
Right. Too many specifics.
But we have a team of great engineers that come from all walks of life. Great experience that they've had in governments, in all the communication organizations in the world. And so we put a team together that we're trying to make this thing happen. And the key would be is that we want to be able to protect your data, your important information, and your secret sauce, whatever you want to call them, company secret sauce, in a manner that they cannot be hacked, they cannot be cyber attacked or anything like that.
Understood. So that's as far as we can go on that. That's very exciting. Well, as that progresses, we might need to come back for an additional episode in the next few months, maybe year, I don't know, and discuss it further, especially as more information starts to be shared as public. But I am, once again, I am honored. I greatly appreciate your time tonight. Getting to tell your story and share it with others, I think, is key for people to understand not just you and your story, but understand your perspective and understand where you came from, and why your experiences and how your experiences have impacted your decision-making in life and your decision to continue to progress in the military and also raise a family and raise a very strong family. And I think a lot of people have gotten away from nowadays understanding the importance of raising a family and sticking out in marriage and all the above. But I think it's very impressive what you've accomplished, and I can't say thank you enough for taking the time to speak with me tonight. Also.